I'm going to call the Finance Committee meeting to order. I'm going to start off by thanking everybody for coming. Once again, we're starting this arduous task of going through the budget and then the warrant articles and everything is time sensitive. I'm here tonight, but I won't be here next week. I have some medical commitments that I have to go to, and the subsequent week after that, I'm having another surgery, so I will not be here for the next 2 weeks, and I don't know how many weeks after that, my surgery. I plan on being in the hospital 3 to 4 days, and then coming home, so I'm not sure when I'll be in. So in my absence, Vice Chairman George D. Domenico will be running the meetings. He'll be posting the meetings, he'll be running the meetings, and please communicate with them and work real hard to get him a quorum, because I won't be here, and that's one less person available.
We're glad to have George back. He's been
to make up.
He had some issues himself. Yeah. Nice to see you.
Next week, you guys are going to be taking up the Saugus Public Schools proposed fiscal 2025 operational budget. I've asked to get you some additional financial information. You already got some financial information in your package from the school department and with their budget, which showed the FTEs, the PTEs for 22, I think, 23, 24, and 25, or 23, 24, 25. I can't remember offhand. Hi, Aaron. That's yours. And you're going to get one for the fire department, too.
The last one on the back.
I've also asked the finance director to get you some additional information that will be useful in your discussion with the school department for their budget. I'm being told that should be available on Friday, and she will send it electronically. Wendy, can you send that to both me and George? And then either George or I will disseminate it to the members so that they all get that. So you'll have some additional information that will be very useful during the process of the budget review for the school department. I only have one other thing that I'd like to say. It has nothing to do with our schedule, but it's coming from the chair here. I forgot last year to make this announcement and to make this statement because I had so much going on that it just slipped my mind. But we all know that we have a financial obligation to the Northeast Vocational School. We have no vehicle to pay the debt service right now. It's being paid out of the tax levy. Which is not the best way to pay debt service, in my opinion. It needs to be, budgeted on a regular basis. So, I'm hoping that the Board of Selectmen will put a question on the next election for a debt exclusion for that. Whether it passes or fails, that will let the administration know and the Finance Committee know where the funding is going to come from to pay for that debt exclusion, which is going to be significant. It's going to be, when it kicks in, it's going to be anywhere maybe from $1.3 to $2 million a year. To take that out of, the tax levy, I mean, that will eat up all your new growth, which means there's no funding left for any of the other departments. So, the people did vote, for a new vocational school. And now we got to decide how we're going to pay for it. So I'm just hoping that that does come to fruition. It's very important, like I say, for the administration and for this committee to know that that money is going to be there. We don't have to worry about it during budget season.
So just, Mr. Chairman, if I can add to that. So everybody understands, like you said, they voted the town or the general election that they had with the 13 communities total, or 12 total communities. They had a majority vote, and that's all they need to have. It doesn't matter if one community doesn't pass or doesn't, and I think it's a good idea. It's a school, it's part of a choice public school system. And it's, you know, for our students, it's our school, it's needed. I think it's rightful. The issue is paying for it. And in other words, just like if we get a capital plan here, if we didn't get support from the residents, we wouldn't have built new schools or done renovations and completely renovated the Belmonte and did some renovations at the vets. So when you ask to do things, you have to be able to pay for them, and that the community hasn't at this point. Where I guess assuming until something's put to the public that we'll just absorb this in the budget. Well, like you said, it could be $1.5 million, $2 million, and that's just for the capital, so it's a capital project for the next 30 years. You know, that's ramping up now, interest rates are higher, so obviously that has an effect. I believe that they did get some money allocated, I think from the feds through the state. I don't know if that's been finalized. I think they were gonna try to put that into the project because they had to make cuts because of the interest rates. And they may be looking at distributing some of that to the communities, but I don't think that's been finalized, or the money's still tied up. But we do have to figure out how to pay for that, and if we don't, then we have to figure out how that works within our operating budget. But it's not the best for a capital improvement plan, a project like this of this magnitude. I think it was $330 some odd million, third of $1 billion. And now, you know, you look at what we did was a bargain. We borrowed the majority of the money at less than 1%. We escalated, as you remember, was supported here. We accelerated the borrowing, so we borrowed all the money up front because of the interest rates, and we had some investment income we were getting for a little bit, but we borrowed the money. The impact to the residents happened sooner, but I think we made the right choice by locking that in, and we had millions of dollars of savings in the long run. They didn't do that. They waited on the borrowing. Interest rates have gotten higher, and that obviously goes to you have to reduce the project, or you have to come back for another vote. But we don't have, and I don't want to get into the whole thing, but that excludes the increase in the amount of students that are going to participate in that school
Right.
system. So in other words, they're going, I think, to what, 1,600 students from 13 or whatever it is now. So that in itself, their operating budget is going to expand and grow by that amount of students. So we're going to get also at the end of this impacted by the amount that we have to budget. And the other thing, just so, and I've talked about this at every public meeting, so that people understand this, is that when we did the average to try to figure out what the costs were going to be, our average enrollment in Saugus was 196, 194 students over a 6-year period. We're now, for some reason, and I keep asking, and has never been provided the information, I had 2 meetings with the setup that were canceled with the administration there, to understand where it is, because we look through the agreement, we don't see it. What the actual allocation is for the amount of students, and then as people understand this that have kids go to vocational or looking for siblings, is that there's other communities that don't utilize whatever's allocated to them. So then those spots become available to the rest of the communities. How are those distributed, and how do they do the wait list? And so, but the answer, what I'm trying to get to is that we had an average of 194 students a year for 6 years, and now we're at, I think, 130 some odd students, which affects obviously the amount of cost in our budget that we owe, which is less, and it also has an effect on the capital. But are those realistic numbers? Why has that changed so drastically? Why do we not have the same average students? There's no shortage, and I don't have anything in writing. I've asked for it for the last few years of how the proportionately each community is given and how the wait list works, and the spots that aren't used, and haven't received that. So obviously, to me, I think it's a phenomenal school. It's a great choice school, public school for our kids and my kids if they choose to do that. The more students we can get there, the better. It's not based on cost or anything like that.
Well,
it is what it is. We own it.
I've asked for that too. I recently asked for the formula that's used on, number one, how many students we are allotted each year, and then how they're dispersed from the community. So I'm hoping to receive that with the budget that I asked them to send out to us when they vote on it in April.
Yeah, to be clear, I'm not saying there's anything nefarious. I'm just saying that there's definitely
Just
something
like to
that's
know.
drastically changed. What that is, I don't know, because we've gone from having 194 average students for, we just took a 6-year snapshot, to now we have in the 130s, and we know that there's families that have been waitlisted and aren't able to get into the school in Saugus. I don't know how that works or how that set up. We haven't really got clarity on that. But I think that's another thing to understand, because if we do go back to where we were with the amount of students without even the 1,600 increase, that's going to have a bigger impact on the amount for the capital, as well as which is, I guess, calculated each year, or I don't know, we're still trying to figure that formula out, but also on the operating budget for them that gets sent to us. And like I said, it's a, great school, I think, phenomenal, and it's a great, choice. I think the only sort of things you hear out there, and I don't want to be biased, but I think the school's phenomenal. But there is that idea that what you hear is that I think over 25% of the students are going on to college there. You know what I mean? Like they're competing for students that go in the Saugus district, and vocational means you go right to work. That's, I think, the definition if you look up vocational, and a lot of these students are now going on to college, which is great. But that they're sort of, they have a selection process to take students from Saugus and everywhere else. And it's not open to everybody, and that was originally when these were built many decades ago, or 50 years ago. The idea of the system is for vocational, and it seems that a lot go on to college and very successful. I have family members that have done it, and I think it's been wonderful for them. But I think those are the things that Saugus district struggles with, of trying to retain sort of the top, cream of the crop, and sort of role models within our own system. So, I mean, they all have something like the charter schools and whatnot, but from the financial point, I think we just have to, like you said, figure out how we're paying for this, and give the community, I think, an opportunity to make choices.
Absolutely.
The direction they want to go in. Because it will affect delivery of services and other things if you're spending a couple $1 million a year annually for 30 years. That's a lot of money.
Yep, sure is.
From an operating standpoint.
Absolutely, that's the point. That was the point I was making.
Correctly, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Scott. With that, I'd like to turn this over to Chief Newberry, and I'd just like to ask him to give us just a quick update, a snapshot, before you start your narrative and presentation on the pumper truck and the ladder truck. What is the projected delivery?
The good news is that we already ordered those things, because now there's like, 5 years for the ladder truck, and, I mean, it's astronomical. And even when we came, a few years ago when we came in, he was saying, I think it's gonna be there. I said, listen, let's all be conservative and say it's gonna be 2 years, because the way with the pandemic and everything, it was crazy, and now it's, it's still, in the works, but I think we got in at the right time, because the prices have escalated astronomically.
Yeah, I'm real happy too, because I remember there were questions from certain political factions asking why do we have to get both of them at the same time, because they were both on the warrant.
Yeah.
And I said, well, why are we pushing this can down the road?
Correct.
Let's just do it, knowing the availability of a labor force, of raw materials, etc. I'm happy that we did it too. It was a good move that we did.
Yeah, Chief, if you wanna.
We got an update on December 18th. I sent it to the town manager and his financial team. The ladder truck will be the first one that comes through. The tentative completion date for that piece of apparatus is April of 2025. Town manager's correct. When we did this order, we were thinking about doing the ladder truck, then the pumper, about a year to 2 years apart, and the increases in cost were 20 to 30% on the overall cost. The approval and the prints will be ready this October, and that's when the contract needs to be signed. We do get a discount if we make a payment when the chassis is done, and that's typically about the time that we borrowed the money, which is typically about 6 months out. So somewhere around the new year, we'd probably be borrowing for that. Just hose to put on trucks is a year out at this point in time. So that's something we'll have to discuss as this year goes on. So the ladder truck, April 2025. The tentative completion date for the pumper is mid-June 2026. Anywhere 4 to 5 years out on a ladder truck at this point in time. Anywhere 4 to 5 years out on a pumper truck at this point in time. When we started this, the last pump we bought, $750. $1.2, $1.3 million for a pumper at this point in time. Up to $2 million for a ladder truck. Luckily, a ladder truck will last us 20 plus years. And that's something we'll have to discuss in the next several years. If these dates do stay 5 years out, we should probably plan for that, to replace another piece of apparatus several years from now. So that's the update. We got that in December, and I'm glad to bring that, I looked that up today, I'm glad to bring that in front of you today.
Thank you, Chief.
Anytime. And thank you for your support on those things. I know it's difficult to traverse, putting through two big purchases like that at the same time. As always, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank you all for having me. You know, it feels repetitive. I think it's about 12 years in here. Me and the Assistant Chief have been coming in here for about 12 years. This year will be 9 years in the capacity I sit in now. And I always appreciate the support from this board. It's nice to see some new faces filtered in over the past few years. I'd like to thank the town manager for prioritizing public safety on an ongoing basis. The department has grown and the equipment is always up to date. I'd like to thank the town treasurer, Wendy Hatch, the town accountant, Donna Matarazzo, for their help with the budget prep. Always the administrative assistant, that's Erica Champa, did a great job helping us out this year. And of course, Captain Corey Rutledge, who does all these books for you and prepares for the meeting, so I wouldn't be able to do this without them. This year, as we have always done, and this administration has done a great job, we focused on state and federal grant opportunities to best manage capital purchases in these times. This past year, we were given a $70,000 approximately grant from, it's called the Assistance to Firefighter Grant. That's from the federal government. That's a 90-10 split grant. We're in the process of the purchase now, and that'll be for the air masks we wear. They're called Scott Packs. That's called a Cascade system that fills them. That system is about 20 years old and it's reached its useful life. We had to replace a motor on that for about $5,000 last year, so it was a good opportunity to get that money from the state. And a 90-10 split, you really can't go wrong. The 22 EMPG grant, sometimes we get confused like that. That is actually last year's. The state budget's a little bit different with the emergency management grants. We were able to upgrade some radio communication systems in the Essex Street Fire Station. That was a one-for-one match. I believe the project was about $9,500 and we get $6,500 from the state each year. This year, with the emphasis on health and well-being and cancer in the fire service and whatnot, we're gonna use the 2023 EMPG grant for particulate blocking hoods, which is the hood that goes over your head before you put the helmet on, and it blocks out any cancer particles. And so that's something that's really well-deserved for the men and women that serve in the fire department, so that's a good thing. We received a couple earmarks through the state of Massachusetts this year for CPR machines, which are called Lucas devices. It's an automatic CPR device, which is an exciting trend forward for the fire department. And we also received an earmark for bunker gear. So with the support of the town manager and the financial team, we've been able to apply for and successfully utilize those grants for capital purchases. So that's been really good. I updated you on the pumper, that's on the list there. And the facility improvements, we've been doing bit by bit. I don't know if you've seen it, we put a new staircase in at the central fire station, and we have a couple projects that are in the pipeline through the capital improvement plan. So other than that, you know, things have been pretty good this year. The next page is the department overview. We'd like to tell you what we've been doing for the past year. This year was yet again, as the department grows and the community grows, we responded to 5,300 emergency calls last year. There's a breakdown on the next page, page 5, if you want to look at that while I'm narrating the page in front of you. Out of the 5,300 calls, 3,300 were medical or emergency rescue responses. I'm sure you can see the breakdown there. The fire prevention staff did 719 inspections. That's growing. When you see what we collected in money, $43,000 on page 6, at $50 a pop, that tells you we do about 4,000 service calls a year through the fire prevention staff. When I started in fire prevention, we're talking 2,000 to 2,500 service calls a year with fire prevention, and they do that with 2 people. So that's something Captain Phelan and Captain Cross do a great job keeping the growth of this community going. And as you can see out in the highway, there's a lot of turnover. So a lot of times that we see businesses come in and come out, we have to inspect them and bring them up to code. I can't say enough about them. The training on the department's been an emphasis with the town manager. The department aide was a lieutenant position, and last year we moved that up to a half aide, half training officer. And when we get into the budget, we can discuss the finances for training.
Chief, before we get into the budget there,
Yep.
looking at the response breakouts, I see there's like 747 false alarms. Do you know what percentage of those are commercial and what percentage are residential, roughly?
I think
I would say a vast majority.
commercial.
Yeah.
So most of them are commercial.
Yeah.
Not a lot of residents have that type of system set up with the fire department.
And how, and how many freebies do the commercials get? One or none?
3.
They get 3 free ones.
That's a town bylaw.
I just forgot,
Mhm.
so, and then after that, they're sent out some form of a bill.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We responded to 122 fire calls. Again, the rescue and EMS was 3,370. Hazardous conditions, that could be anything from hazmat call to, wire down. Service calls, that could be the backbone, that could be anything from, citizen in need in their home to, plugging out fire alarm systems. Good intent calls, when people call and see smoke in the air, and it's an unfounded call. False alarms, that comes up every year, and that number stays pretty consistent, even with the rise of the amount of calls we do as a department. It usually stays right around that 700 number. This year, we did deal with some flooding, and we'll touch on the emergency management real quick, but we had a couple situations where we had flooding down in East Saugus. And special incident, that's a catch-all. If we go to page 8, that's the organizational structure. If anyone hasn't seen the way that the department operates from a manpower standpoint. And the next page is a breakdown of the groups.
And if the finance committee remembers, part of this, what the chief's initiative was, when him and I met, we first took over, it was to continue the, making sure that we had, meeting national standards for adequate staffing levels with the, on the apparatus, as well as, I think we talked about earlier, having a captain in the car to run incident. And those things, I think, have improved the public safety for not only the residents and the community, but also for the firefighters themselves and the organization.
And how many firemen do we have right now currently?
I think we have the most we've had probably in history, correct?
It's the most in history.
Yeah, I knew that, but
Mhm.
do we know how many there is?
Yes, we currently have 59 on staff.
Thank you.
I just had an officers meeting yesterday, and the breakdown was something like 45% of engine 3 from Central Station, about 35% from engine 1, about 30% that the ladder truck would go out on. They have a small district, but they go out with multi-company responses. And the captain in the car, they went out on 1,100 runs. So if you look at industry standards, like the town manager's saying, when you look at urban firefighting like we would be considered, the baseline is 600 to 800 calls a year to justify a position. So we are outpacing that just with the command vehicle, and that has been an enormous lurch forward. It's between getting grants and growing the department and putting the captain, incident commander in a vehicle has been probably the greatest improvement in my career. So I can't say enough about the help.
Yeah, and it's extremely professionalized, the firefighting, the department here and the firefighters.
The mechanics report on page 10, we did go slightly over budget on that, but each year we do emphasize growing that budget. The wear and tear on the vehicles with that many runs is something that you have to keep on top of. Once you let a light bulb go or a belt go in the truck, it starts to decline. So you have to keep on these apparatus, and you need to be going down the street safely. When we talk about false alarms, I know there's new people here. It's an awesome responsibility driving emergency vehicles down the road, police, fire, and EMS. And that's why we do emphasize false alarms and trying to get systems to improve, because when you're going down the road for no reason, it's really important. The department mechanic, Rich Rigucci, does yeoman's work keeping the apparatus going. We do have to put apparatus out to vendors at certain points of time during the year. But just based on $100 per hour, which is half of what the industry standard is, about $208 an hour at most commercial garages for this type of equipment. Just the the labor he does on a yearly basis would be about 64,000 outsourced at half price. So if you actually went off what it costs to put them into a commercial garage, that would be about $130,000 a year, and he does that working 2 days a week at the fire station. So it's really, we try to show you what he does for the community, and he is one of the best people on my day staff.
And just to add to that, I think from a public safety standpoint, we talk about, ordering, the pumpers and the ladder trucks and all that, and there's a lot more involved in the planning of these things, from a capital standpoint. And you can see just from like, even with the police cruisers, that's why we're asking for police cruisers every year. Police cruisers we ordered last May. I think we just got them, they're just getting stickers today, right? So they're just coming online from last May. So we'll be we'll be putting in a request for another at least four police vehicles, but that's how long the lag time is to get any of this equipment. So there's a lot more planning and budgeting that's involved now, where you just can't call and say, okay, can you get us some cruisers, and you have them within a month or two. It's totally different. A lot of the stuff I think is probably being built, to whatever the order is.
And if you go to the breakdown of the budget, it's just beyond that page. Would you like to go line by line, just go right through, or
Sure.
just hit some of them are real small, that with the no increases, I could just sort of circle what we've asked for a slight increase for.
And just, I guess, preface, we have a lot of new members here on the finance committee and others to understand. A lot of this stuff in these discussions happen with myself, the finance team in each department. So a lot of this stuff we're not doing it in public. So, every department, and I try to emphasize this so people understand, I could have every department, the police, fire, DPW, youth rec, everybody say that they want another $1 million in their budget and need it and want it. And then we could go and say, we're gonna now cut their budget. It's just a request. And I don't mean this to expose the schools, but the schools put out a wish list budget to say, this is what we're requesting, and then the newspapers write, oh, their budget got cut, it got reduced. It didn't get cut, it's just, all they did was put a request in. It's not getting cut. But we do a lot of that internally in meetings, and we meet over, the whole month of, January, sometimes in December, January into February, and discussing what the needs are. And, part of it is that we're trying to do, we're trying to do more with less, like all the other communities that are out there. And I think we do the best we can do, and sometimes we'll have these frank discussions, say, hey, you're looking for this, we'll get to that next year, I gotta do something for the DPW this year, and the thing, and we try to manage that, and it's handled. So their requests aren't necessarily what they, might necessarily want. And the schools are their own, sort of have their own system, and they're to put in a budget that is not fundable, and then have all the newspaper articles to say their budget got cut and they don't have enough money. But, and I don't want to go down this road, but I think it's important to understand, part of that is if we did this with the police and fire and had them request extra $1 million or $2 million in the budget, and we come here and say that manager, we cut their budget and they're not getting it, it erodes confidence in the public. Like that people aren't gonna make it, and I think that the schools do a disservice, and I think over the years we've tried to work with them, or I have, to try to be more realistic, to say what's their budget gonna be, and put a budget together that matches what they're actually gonna get. Because what happens is the same thing, if you have children in the school system, or you're in the school system, or you're an employee of the school system, you start thinking, Jesus, we got screwed, we didn't get our money, we got a cut, and then you start thinking psychologically that there's something wrong. And the same thing you do if you say, well, if we don't get this money, we're not gonna be able to go to your house if your house gets broken into. Everybody's like, what do you mean? And that's not the reality. They're able to function and do that. But I think that's important to understand for new people that are here and people that are watching, to understand that a lot of this stuff in these discussions and these hard discussions happen internally, in internal meetings. And then we come up with what we can do based on the thing. And I think we had a town meeting member years ago that used to say, back then, we're trying to do, $120 million worth of expenses with, $90 million. And, there's always never enough, we always can use more money. But I think one of the things that's important financially that we've done is we're spending within our means. So we're not overspending, we don't have structural deficits, not making up, budgets that don't, you know, these are estimates, so they're not, you know, these change and whatnot, but years ago, before this administration, they just have budgets that made no sense and never could figure out, and then they're trying to find money and cut things in the middle of the year. We don't do that, and I think that that's part of trying to be responsible. And we're not seeing the layoffs during the pandemic. We're not seeing, right now, a lot of school districts around us are making cuts. We have communities around us that are looking for operational overrides just to pay for operating costs. And that's been going on since the pandemic on. We try to spend within our means, and I think we've done a good job of that, and our bond rating and financial stability and fiscal health shows that. So.
Well, you know, to, you know, add on to that, you know, as a financial reviewer of budgets, I always strive to see if we can be level funded or level service. And then anything after that, if it's sustainable, is something that you can entertain. And that doesn't always happen. And that's frustrating because, you know, we look at things and we say, we know that that's not a sustainable spending amount. I mean, you can't grow budgets, you know, 8, 9, 10% a year with the tax, you know, the tax formula that's in the state. You know, it has to come from somewhere. So, you know, when I look at a budget, I'm always hoping that it's either level serviced, which would be the best thing, or level funded. Because level funded doesn't necessarily mean level serviced, because everything goes up with, you know, COLA, you know, contracts or whatever it may be. So, you know, that's how I look at it, and I believe that's probably how the finance committee members look at it too.
Yeah, you just have to be careful, because we went through a bunch of, I think a decade ago, where a department would say they need level service, but that's, you know, and I don't want to, you'll have time to talk about this next week, but the schools, I think we figured out to bring on 17 and a half new positions into their budget. So, but that's, if you want to stay level service, those because you hire people, that's not sustainable under a grant. And then you're looking for the police, fire, and DPW to pay for those positions.
And that's the other thing that
It's
we
not
always,
sustainable.
yeah, and that's the other thing we always talk about. When you use grant money for operational expansion, you have to know where that money's gonna come from. Like when we got the SAFER grants for the fire department, we knew that we were gonna build those positions into the operational budget. I think it was at the end of 2 years of that grant, 3-year grant. But we prepared for that, and we maintained the level of those employees. Am I correct, Chief?
Yes.
So, you know, that's what's important, and that's called management, and that's financial management. And that's the way everybody has to look at things, because if they don't, then, you know, it's kind of like a pie in the sky type thing. So, I agree with that. But, sorry, Chief.
No, it's good information for everyone. I went through while everyone was discussing the overall budget, and I found 6 increases in all the line items between the fire department and the emergency management. The first one is salaries and wages full-time, and that's a contractual obligation, correct? Overtime with the contractual obligation, it went from 675 to 700,000, and that just mirrors the pay from straight pay to overtime. If you move down a few line items to overtime training, we increased that from $50,000 to $60,000, and that is something that is something near and dear to my heart, and I'm very proud of the fact that we have a training officer, and that does show that the town is committed towards improvement of the employees on the department. There's a sick leave buyback.
And I think that goes, you know, not to, Mr. Chairman, but I think that speaks volumes for both the chief, for both departments, and, you know, their assistants, and, you know, the chiefs that came before them, is that myself and the administration and them have always put public safety first and prioritized it. And I think a lot of places you might go and they say that, but they don't really do that. And we've done that, I think, with public safety, and you know, something I'm proud of the chiefs in both police and fire, and that they've been committed to that and really have grown and professionalized the departments.
I appreciate that, and that kind of money is to bring people up to industry standards. That's not just picking a training on, you know, how to do something that isn't really what we need to do. If you make a new officer, you have to train them to that level from a national standard, so you'd send them to a training for that, and that is a great emphasis on this budget this year, and I really appreciate that. And we'll get back to it on the next page as well. The sick leave buyback is 2 employees that are retiring this year. One retired last year, and he retired abruptly, and somebody's announced a retirement. Typically, we'll put out somewhere around the new year if anyone's requesting to be, you know, retire, to get their sick time buyback, so that's that. If you go to the next page, and you go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 line items, it's professional and tech education and training. That increased from $11,500 to $25,000. And what we're looking to do is set up some training props and also bring in some industry experts and speakers to you know, help train the department. So those 2 things is something that I tried to emphasize within the confines of what we're talking about here. Not pie in the sky, but focus on what the department's needs are. So I really appreciate that emphasis. And other than that, when you go to emergency management and we discuss the grants, if you flip towards the back, there's one increase of $5,000 in the salary line item.
Yeah, that's just I think, bring it up to
What the industry is.
industry standards.
And I'm willing to take any kind of questions.
Are there any questions from the committee? No, I mean, the budget is more or less level funded with the exception of contractual obligations, slight increase in training, which, you know, I'm a believer in training, and I've always said that you can't expect anybody to do a job professionally, especially you know, a job like public safety, without giving them the proper equipment and the proper training. So, I mean, it's a minimal amount of money, and it's for the safety of both the community and the men and women. So I don't have any questions. Any questions by the committee? Yeah, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your report. Your equipment, do you have adequate equipment to deal with the increased frequency of flooding in East Saugus? I see the equipment down there with the trucks and all that. Do we have what we need for the increased frequency of flooding? People stranded in their homes and so forth?
It's funny, and I truly appreciate that question, and I understand where you live and how important that is to you and your neighbors in that area.
In Venice area, so
Yes.
Seagate,
Yes, Seagate, Venice.
Bristol now too.
And during those storms, you'll see me and the manager down there in those major events, especially in blizzards and things like that. The pointed question is something that I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. The answer is yes. We have more pumps. Take, for example, the town hall. The town hall, it gets flooded down here. We take an emergency management pump, we leave it right over at the old fire station, they're able to deploy it and pump those things out.
We also increased the pump velocity in the pumps that we have here, that
Yeah.
made a significant difference.
Yeah, I'll tell you that we have that rescue truck and we have several trailers with equipment on it. And never mind pumps, but hoses and all the equipment we need. We do harden the department when a storm comes in, and if it's a major event, we'll bring in more employees. We'll bring myself and the deputy chief back, he'll stay in the dispatch area and run the town from that area. And we were able to fold a lot of the equipment that was there and also add to it. That EMPG program is based on population, and each year, what we did is, on the line item for equipment, we have the ability to match that EMPG grant, so every year, we've been able to buy $13,000 to $20,000 worth of equipment per year. You'll see the signboards, tow-behind generators, we probably have a dozen generators, 30-plus pumps, and we're able to do it. But when I do go around the neighborhood, the neighbors are hardened, and they do have the equipment in their own homes, and we usually come in when they get overwhelmed, if you know what I mean. We usually go in, and I'm proud of the actions of all the department members.
Finally, my last question is, emergency management, do they go into people's basements and pump it out? If they don't, I know with the towns of policy not to go on private property, but do we assist homeowners when they are flooded?
All the time,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank
And
you.
that's fire personnel. They're happy to do it. We train on the pumps.
Even back in, if you remember the snowstorms back, I think like 7 or 8 years ago, the big ones that we had, and they had the flooding down there. We actually had National Grid people, and we have electricians and different things that work for the fire department. They were going out in the rafts, the boats, and actually disconnecting services during those times.
Yeah, what an eye-opener it was for
Yeah.
both of us. That was really at the beginning of my tenure as chief, and we came back and rallied and had a lot of discussions. But the amount of grants you can get through the state and federal government for emergency management,
It's great.
it's great.
It's too bad we can't get back our 1940 Seagraves that's not being used by duck tours that a former town manager gave away.
Which, I thought we traded it for a toolbox.
Yeah, that's giving it away.
Yeah.
Okay, chief, yeah, yes.
Just had a quick question for the chief, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman. In regards to mutual aid, is that coming out of the town's budget, or is that a statewide funded issue, or you elaborate a little on that?
Well, that's another really appreciated question, and I can tell you that I'm proud to say that I'm the chairman of Metro Fire, which is the 35 communities that surround Boston. And it's a 10-alarm mutual aid system, and it's a reciprocal system in place. When I took over as chief, there was no mutual aid budget for overtime, and we decided as a team not to take away from the general overtime. And at the time, it may be something we have to address in the future, but we have to really look at where it hits the budget. When we looked at it from a financial standpoint, we emphasized a line item in salaries called mutual aid overtime. And at the time, a new employee from the fire department made about $50,000 a year, and my argument was, is we get to get the benefits of a 10-alarm run card for $50,000, and we put that money into the line item, and we don't expend the whole $50,000, but there's not a week that goes by that we're not going out. When we go out into those communities, what that overtime money does is backfill the engine that goes out of town. And so there's no, other than a $5,000 fee to be part of the, and I hate to admit it, it was $2,500 when I took over, but I proposed it going up to $5,000. For $5,000 a year and the $50,000 line item, we get the benefits of the 35 communities around Boston.
So it's not a strain on the department having to go to other communities?
No,
It's the only way that can work.
we wouldn't be able to do it. I would love to have 100 firefighters,
Yeah.
and I'm realistic.
No, I'm all for it, I think
Yeah.
it's an amazing program. so
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure you guys weren't in a hole because of it.
Nope. Nope.
Okay, chief, thank you very much, we appreciate it. And good luck this year, and I'm looking forward to a few years down the road.
Yes, we'll have that pump, the ladder truck for you first, and the pumper, and just on a personal note, I always appreciate how kind everyone treats me here. I know public safety is paramount in any community, and I appreciate how you all treat me. I appreciate what you do, and thank you for your time, for
You're
sure.
welcome, thank you. Okay, Assistant Chief Giorgetti. You're right. Hi, Charlene.
Hello,
Welcome.
thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you for putting together this report with the chief and everybody.
You didn't mail to us, how'd you get it? Tonight?
Yeah,
No,
what?
we just got it, yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
An extra one of these? You got extra one?
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to extend the chief's apologies that he couldn't be here tonight due to the scheduling conflict.
It's no problem at all.
I'd
We're
like
in
to
good
start
hands.
just by reading his cover letter
Okay,
to the Finance Committee, Town Manager, Board of Selectmen, Town Meeting members. I wish to thank the members of the Finance Committee, Board of Selectmen, Town Manager, and Town Meeting for the work they put into analyzing the town budget, for making the difficult decisions that need to be made every year, I ask you to review this budget and consider public safety as a priority for the community. This last year, the department responded to 20,016 calls for service, made 225 arrests, completed over 1,671 incident reports, responded to a total of 519 motor vehicle crashes, conducted over 545 motor vehicle stops, conducted 467 directed patrols and traffic assignments. They issued a total of 337 traffic citations. We logged in 621 pieces of property, and we served over 74 restraining orders. With the close of COVID and the pandemic, the department has brought back many of the community engagement programs that we put on hold, such as National Night Out, the bike patrols on the rail trail, the Essex County DA summer camp, the post-overdose opiate outreach, the National Drug Take Back, and the many events that we partner with the Saugus Youth Rec Department. The department's hope is that we can find even more ways to engage with the community, and we will continue to work with town departments, different groups, and organizations within the town in an effort to engage with the community, develop partnerships, and proactively address the concerns of the community. In closing, it is the goal of the Saugus Police Department to not only enforce the laws of the Commonwealth and the bylaws of the town, but to make a significant impact on the quality of life issues of our residents. We'll go through and just highlight some of the increases within the budget. The majority of the line items were level funded based on the previous budget. Salary and wages, there was an increase of $85,159. That's a contractual obligation. There was also an increase in the salaries and part-time. That was an additional $12,688. The overtime budget was increased this fiscal, or upcoming fiscal, $25,000. As you're aware, the last several fiscal year budgets, it was level funded at $800. With the increase of contractual obligations, we sought an increase just to cover that, to ensure it didn't go into a deficit. There was an increase in the stipend assignments, $3,115. That's a contractual obligation. Quote was level funded, $10,000. There was a slight increase in the overtime training budget of $1,659. Night shift differential, again, a slight increase of approximately $1,800. That's contractual. You'll see that the holiday pay, the employee benefits, the stipend longevity, career incentive, and the educational incentive were all level funded.
And just to, Mr. Chairman, just to kind of,
Yep.
give everybody understanding with public safety, emergency personnel, somebody's injured, those things that, need to be filled, those shifts are filled. So it works a little differently than, office workers or administration and all that. So a lot of that stuff is, we budget a little bit for, so 111 benefits with police and fire when they're injured. But it's completely unpredictable. If you have, a few officers respond to a call and 2 or 3 of them get injured and they're out for a certain period of time, that becomes a direct impact to the overtime budget. So that's always a sort of a fluid thing that changes, and it's not really predictable, or you're able to budget for something like that.
Currently, we have 4 officers that are out injured 111F. Some of them have been lengthy, 6 months, just for the recovery for their injuries. But as the manager says, that fluctuates from anywhere from 1 to as many as 4. The uniform allowance, which is contractual, is still level funded, along with the sick incentive, We anticipate one retirement. Officer McKinnon, we anticipate retiring within this budget. And that's the request within the fiscal '25 for that appropriation. On the expense side, repair, maintenance of office equipment, you'll notice that there's an additional fund request of $24,648. That increase is to cover some of the technology that the department's taken on, some of the service agreements, and replace some of that equipment that's aged out over the years. Recently, there's been some cameras the department added within the town, and that's to, just to make sure we maintain those, and we have the proper service and coverage. You'll notice that the maintenance for vehicles is level funded, along with the communication, the radios, the MDTs, etc. Maintenance and equipment for the fuel system, level funded. Advertising, again, was level funded. Again, we're asking for an increase, again, on the professional technology budget of $55,000. And that's to cover technology, new service agreements, licensing fees, the amount of licenses that we need within the department. Currently, we're at 70 sworn members. We have 10 dispatchers, and then we have admin personnel, which number 5. So that's to cover that and all the equipment and licensing that we need for the department.
And Mr. Chairman, we're constantly, with both police and fire, constantly in the process of hiring and trying to plan. A lot of people don't understand the training and the hiring process, the amount of time and effort that's involved in that. Different than if you hired somebody for an office job or some other job, they come to work and they give their notice 2 weeks somewhere and then they come to work. When you're hiring police and fire, especially with police, it's, they have to get them prepped, they have to do all kinds of things leading up to going to a police academy. They go to a police academy for 6 months, they come out, they have to be trained. You're talking, it could be a year and a half from the initial calling for those positions to actually getting them on the street where they're actually, count towards manpower. So there's this, somebody leaves or somebody retires or, for whatever issue, it's, that's what we try to stay ahead of the game as much as we can. But we're always sort of in a constant hiring with police and fire each year.
We've been fortunate with the manager's support, the support of this committee and town meeting. Just recently, we had 4 graduate, or 2 graduate from the academy. We hired 2 additional, who did 8 weeks in-house. They just finished their training, so there was 4 officers.
We got lucky because they were already academy certified from, that was acceptable.
That's kind of like almost the first for Saugus.
We don't, not many, we get a few here and there, not
Yeah,
not
we
many.
don't get many.
No.
We lose people, but we don't get them.
And I think to add to what the assistant chief's talking about is that, and everybody talks about this, but the pool of candidates for police and fire is much different, and the amount of people that are looking for these type of jobs is become, I think, problematic, and especially through the civil service system. And so a lot of times we have candidates, which is sort of unheard of, it's like sort of an anomaly, but we have a lot of candidates that either can't get into the academies because they can't meet the standards prior to getting in, or they're not able to finish the academies, and they either academically or physically can't finish the academies, and we've invested all this time and money, and then you have to start over and start the process again with a new calling of candidates on the list through civil service.
And currently, we have 2 members in the academy now. We anticipate sometime in late July, early August, that they'll graduate. And we'll be working with the manager's office to fill 2 other vacancies that are currently unfilled. They just had the civil service test. In years past, we'd have in excess of 100 people on the waiting list to become officers. Currently, we get about 32 residents from the town of Saugus that wanna become police officers, and then it goes to the outside communities.
And a lot of those aren't viable candidates that are on the
Right.
list. But, you know, I will say, and the same thing with this chief, and the prior chiefs, and you know, they've been completely, I think, done an excellent job of really advocating for the departments. We've always prioritized the public safety, and just as in the fire, the police, we have the most manpower that we've had in the history of Saugus here at this point.
You'll see that the professional tactic and training was again level funded at $40,850. Supplies for office, custodial supplies, and motor fuel and lube, again, we're all level funded. Supplies to repair the vehicles, level funded at $25,000. Again, the other supplies and prisoners, level funded. Uniforms and equipment, including Narcan, again, $25,000, level funded. Ammunition, evidence, and out-of-state travel, we're all level funded, as was the membership, gun permits, and mutual aid. Mutual aid covers our expense to be a member of ZEMLIC, which allows us to bring in specialized officers if needed for various events that may occur or incidents within the town. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you may have pertaining to the fiscal '25 budget.
Are there any questions by the committee? No? Dispatches and animal control.
Yep. You'd like to start with dispatch or animal
Sure.
control? There was a slight increase in the line item for salaries, that's a contractual obligation, $26,344. Temporary positions, overtime training, along with the holiday pay, sick buyback, those were all level funded. We don't anticipate any retirements within that bargaining unit. So there were 0 funds requested for the sick leave buyback. And the dispatcher training on the expense side, again, level funded at $10,000.
Pretty straightforward. Any questions? Animal control.
The animal control for salaries and wages, there was a slight increase of $26.71. Salaries and wages part-time, you'll notice an increase there of $44,980.
So that's trying to bring on somebody, the amount of calls that we're getting for animal control, you know, on off hours, and Darren that does a great job, and he's always available, but he's going out nights, weekends,
Busy.
24/7, so we're looking to try to bring on, which we used to years ago have
Part-timer.
a part-timer.
Yep.
Or at least an on-call. We have an on-call now, but I think maybe some more permanent hours or a mix of that would be helpful, I think, to the community, so that he doesn't have to, you know, leave being out with his family and come and answer a call. I mean,
Yep.
you know, not, Jeannie in my office actually goes out with some of the stuff to help him. I've been out, you know, different people in the police have tried to go out, and, you know, nights and different times, and I think that it's at a point that they need some support, he needs some support there. We don't wanna burn him out or make him not want to do the job.
Makes
He
sense.
does a great job.
There's no mutual aid that we can call upon to have somebody step up and come in. And so for those times when
Right.
we have a call for service and we need somebody, it's kind of difficult to have somebody come in. You don't have the environmental police or others that are willing to step up and fill that position or that need. So the additional funds to have somebody fill in for his vacation time, family commitments, et cetera, would help out and essentially allow us to provide a service throughout the whole week, regardless of that time, so.
Well, things happen 7 days a week, not 5.
Yeah, and we do the best we can do,
Yeah.
obviously, you know, public, you know, you have to prioritize, but I mean, it's constantly in contact with
Well, I know
my
he's all
office.
alone,
Yeah.
so, you know, I mean, I'm sure he does a phenomenal job being the only, you know, person in town that really does that,
He
so.
does an exceptional job, and he's
Yep.
never said no.
You don't hear any
Wanna come
complaints
out.
from, you know, the community or the taxpayers, so you know he's doing a darn good job.
You still got the same truck?
He's got a brand new truck.
Brand new
Okay.
truck.
Took like 2 years to get the truck during the pandemic, but they finally got that truck. Yeah,
Yeah.
the other truck was in tough shape, for sure.
The remainder of his budget, overtime,
So level funded,
all level funded.
everything is level funded.
Part of it, I don't think he's putting in for the overtime, is the issue.
Any questions on animal control from the committee? Nope. Chief, I want to thank you very much. Thank Charlene for this report, this presentation, and thank you for doing a good job out there and be safe out there.
Thank you, members of the committee. Thank you. Thank the manager, treasurer, and the accountant for their assistance in preparing the budget with us.
Bye, Chief.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Okay.
Ken, can I ask one question to Scott?
Yes.
More about, it's not
Oh,
about this
okay.
budget, it's just more in general. So, the technology stuff, shouldn't that just all roll up to one tech, like, don't we have a tech team that covers the whole town, or they have their own tech?
They have their own.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Probably
special,
because they have
sort of
their own.
specialized, yeah, and they have their own, actually, it's the same, it wasn't always, but it's actually the same vendor that does the police.
covers for them, but it's separate, okay,
Yeah.
alright.
Okay, with that being said, I've already told you guys that next week is Saugus Public Schools, excuse me, proposed operational budget for '25. You should be receiving some additional information, but you did receive information in addition to the operational budget request. Information that I asked for that I thought would be helpful to the committee. In the meantime, if there are any questions, because George is sitting in for me and you may not remember, after you people have your meeting with the school department, if there are any additional requests or questions for information or backup financial documentation or anything like that, please send them to George, don't send them to me because I will probably be in the hospital. So, and he will get them all together and send them over to the superintendent and Paul. I would say send it to both of them, you know, that way there the superintendent's in the loop and he can disseminate the information requested to the school committee, but to the superintendent and to Paula. And basically that's it, and with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Kenny, can I ask one question?
Yep,
Through you to Wendy, Scott, I know the budget's a work in progress and pages may change, but would it be difficult to give, when the town meeting gets the final budget, to have an index showing which department is on, what page corresponds to what department?
Sure.
Thanks.
yeah.
You have that with the
Yeah.
agenda that we.
Yeah, on our
produce.
agenda,
I have an
we go
agenda
through and do
has
that, so.
by-page matches, because
Yeah.
the torture that was,
Well, you-
Because it makes it a
past
little
torture of
easier.
finding it, yeah, no, we have a
Police
reference,
department, they go to page
you
15.
have
you know,
them.
yeah.
I'll make sure you see.
We're gonna
it.
have to ask Lou Rossi, see if that, Lou Rossi, see if.
I'll reach out
Because
for
we'll change it and then he'll wanna
I
change back.
can't, I can't reach out for Rocky. I can't reach out to Rocky because he's in New Hampshire and he is not a Saugus
Oh,
resident.
boy.
I saw Lou Rossi not even a week ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
he said to send his regards to all of you.
Oh, great
yeah,
guy.
can I motion to adjourn, seconded by the chair, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I want to thank the committee very much for your attendance, for coming, and
This?